Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut is defending Leader Reid's comments. He joins us. Good evening, sir.
Thanks for having me, Greta.
Okay, so defend it. All Obamacare horror stories are untrue.
Well, I think Senator Reid later even that day walked that back, suggesting that not all the horror stories are untrue.
I didn't hear him walk it back.
No,
when did he walk it back?
I think he's made it pretty clear that ultimately we're talking about some very high-profile stories that have been put into the response to the State of the Union speech, commercials against a lot of our Democratic incumbents that really aren't true. There's a commercial running in Michigan against a candidate running for the Senate there who says that they lost their doctor and they couldn't get affordable coverage, and the truth was that she could keep her doctor on a plan on the Affordable Care Act and get a premium that was half as much. But listen, I'm going to concede, right, separate and aside from what Senator Reid said, that of course some people will have bad experiences, but a lot of people had bad experiences under the old health care system
Here's my problem. It's that here's a Senate Majority Leader. He goes to the floor and says it. He doesn't go back to the floor and correct it. I mean, he had plenty of opportunity. He owns the floor. And he's not just simply a first offender and saying awful things about people. He said about Governor Romney that he heard from a, quote, credible source that he hadn't paid income taxes. He's a lawyer. He won't even name the source. But he says this stuff to slime somebody. This is a leader. This is not just a rank-and-file senator. This is a majority leader. How does he get away with just saying awful things? Well,
listen, somebody has to push back on the idea that whether it be the Koch brothers or other funders.
Well, how about George Soros? If you're going to talk about the Koch brothers, talk about George Soros.
Somebody's got to push back on the idea that people are putting falsehoods on the air. I mean, Mary Landau has an ad running against her where supposedly Louisianans say they're getting mail canceling their health insurance, and they're all actors.
Here's a good way to do it. Here's a good way. Some things are untrue. What he said was all were untrue. Yeah, that's his problem, and he doesn't go back to the floor and said, "I was wrong when I said all." And I hammer him because he's a lawyer and he knows, getting the facts right matter.
Yeah, but getting the facts right does matter, and the fact is that when there are allies of our Republicans in the Senate who are spending hundreds of millions of dollars lying about the Affordable Care Act on the air,
defeated with the truth.
Then listen, and the truth hurts here because the fact is that 11 million people have signed up for health care under Obamacare. We have saved the taxpayers $1.2 trillion expected over the next 10 years. Right? That's the truth. And for Republicans that don't like this law, that does hurt.
Obviously, you and I are talking a little bit on different stories. You're talking about Obamacare, and I'm talking about Senator Harry Reid as a leader and saying things on the Senate floor that are just not true, and how he continues to be your leader, and how people continue to sort of step in line and nobody corrals him to get the truth right, to be fair himself.
Yeah, let me say something about sort of where Democrats have been on this. I think Democrats have been way too on the defensive about health care, and I think
not about health care. I'm talking about Harry Reid, Senator Harry Reid.
No, but this is getting to Senator Reid. So listen, I agree. Senator Reid has been tough on Republicans.
It's not, I don't mind that he's tough. I admire somebody who's tough. I was a trial lawyer. Be tough, but but the facts. The problem is that he's very loose. I mean, he has said things about even President Obama that were particularly unflattering, and he had to walk those back. But he's got loose lips, and he says terrible things, and yet he continues to be your leader.
Well, listen, I think that right now it's important for the American people to know that there is hundreds of millions of dollars being spent saying things that are wrong. I know that there are people who have bad experiences with the health care law. And listen, I think that my impression is that Senator Reid has corrected that. But
I don't know when. But you say that, but I never heard it.
Listen, but I stand by the idea that there should be somebody on the Senate floor talking about not only the fact that a lot of these ads are wrong, but we should have some space to talk about the good things that are happening in this bill.
Look, you know what? I'm actually with you on that. Totally with you. Let's have the truth on the Senate floor. He owns the Senate floor as a Senate Majority Leader, so he should be the last person on the floor with the falsehood and at least not going back and correcting it.
Well, again, I think that he's been clear about what the real story is here, which is that there are a lot more people who have good experiences than bad experiences. And the fact is, Harry Reid isn't spending hundreds of millions of dollars on the air lying about the Affordable Care Act and putting on to the air stories that aren't true. It's the Koch brothers and the Republican Senate committee that are doing that, and it is worthwhile to bring that out into the light.
And, Senator, you're a good sport to come on, and I appreciate it.
Thanks,
and I gave you the last word. You'll come back?
All right, I will.
Oh, good. Coming up.